Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Welcome to Be My Guest. This is Jan Lewis, and today we have Ritu Kapur on with us, and she is not only a yoga instructor, she has written a book. Welcome, Ritu.
Thank you, Jan.
It is called Teach Yoga, Touch Hearts, a guide to creating inspirational yoga practice. So this has come out within a year, right? Within a year?
It is. I actually wrote it and published it this year.
Self-published?
Self-published, yes.
Okay. Oh, that's the best way to go.
Yes.
It really is. Who did the cover? Did you do that?
Actually, I did the cover. This is a picture of a mountain called Kailash, Mount Kailash in Tibet.
Yeah.
I was there in 2018, and that whole trip was deeply inspiring in many ways. So I decided to use a picture of the mountain in my book.
There is, I don't know if you know, but in Grafton, the monks have a meditation place off of Route 140. Have you been up there, up in the woods?
I'm not sure.
It's
But that
pretty
would be
isolated.
worth
but-
checking. Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's opposite the lake.
Okay.
You know where that is. Now, I met Ritu back a couple of years ago, and you were at that time doing the yoga meditation in your office.
In my yoga studio. Yes.
I remember that. And now you're not here. How are you doing it now?
I'm doing it all. I'm offering it all online. You know, we had to close the studio last year because of COVID, and I let go of the space. It was a rental space. But fortunately, we have really good technology these days. So I'm teaching about 7 classes a week, all through Zoom. Yeah.
7 classes?
Yes.
That's
keeps me busy.
online.
That's all
Now, I
online.
tried it, but my home office is not big enough to stretch out in. I'm like,
You know, it works for some people very well because you don't have to leave the house. But for others, it just doesn't work. It's one of those things.
yeah, I like in person.
I know.
I do.
There is some energy about being in person.
Definitely, being around other people and that type of thing. What made you decide to write the book?
You know, it was in my thought process for about 4 years, maybe a little bit longer. But, 4 years ago, something happened that made me think I should put everything that I'm collecting in a book format. And it was just a thought for all these years. But this year, when I felt my energy and my momentum was in the right place, I literally one day I sat down, started writing, and then every day I was putting in as many hours as I could get from the regular routine. And it came together pretty fast after that because my content was building up over these last 12 years that I've been teaching. It's about creating that inspirational practice, and I've collected material over these years that I had to put together in a more organized, cohesive way.
I love the way she has the contents. The introduction, how to use this book. That's great. Chapter 1, what is yoga? Definition based on Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
What is that?
So Bhagavad Gita is a very sacred text in Hinduism. It is very well regarded by all religions, by Westerns and Eastern religions. It is actually part of a story that happens in ancient India, and Lord Krishna, who is one of the Indian gods, is teaching one of his warriors, students, about why he should follow his path rather than running away from it, although sometimes following the path is way harder than hiding somewhere. So.
Is Krishna, is he the elephant with the arms?
No, that's Ganesha.
That's
you're
Ganesha.
thinking.
Now, which one's Krishna?
So Krishna has many faces. He is, his devotees pray him as a little child, the baby Krishna, and then there's an adult Krishna who plays with folks in his village, and then Krishna, when he became a king, and he, by his friends, he was recognized as God.
Well, up in you're in Hopkinton now, right?
I live in Hopkinton.
But up in Ashland, I think I've been there twice. They have the huge. There's a call it a temple.
It is a Lakshmi temple.
I went in there with my son when he was really young. I wanted him to see it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And you just see the shoes all lined up. I went, oops, I forgot. I got to take off my shoes. So then we went into this great big room, and they had all these little platters of fruit on the floor.
Served to the...
So I thought, well, maybe there'll be a servant, and after that we all get to eat. No, that's not how it works. And then I sat with my legs the wrong way. It was sweet. One of the men said, you got to put your legs in. I said, okay, I got it.
Because your feet cannot face the God, yes.
It was amazing. And then there was another part in there where there was a man, I don't know if he was chanting, he was playing, what is that wonderful drum? I love the sound of that.
Tabla. I think you're thinking tabla.
It's got a whoop sound, a whoop.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Now,
so it's funny that you mentioned that temple. When I got my yoga teacher training, that's where I taught a weekly class for a year.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because I was new, and that class was really great for me to build my own confidence in teaching. So for the whole year, I taught a class there.
It's absolutely beautiful. It's off of Route 135, heading for Framingham. It's in Ashland. And you go down the road, and then all of a sudden this magnificent building comes up on the left. Did I hear correctly that they shipped in, was it from Italy or from somewhere, to build it with a certain kind of decor?
Yeah, I'm not sure how, but
it looks like a Hollywood set.
It's at least 25 years old now. Yeah.
It honestly looks like a movie set. It's absolutely beautiful. Oh, now, Ritu, I'm going to get it right. Ritu, before we go any further, how can they reach you about your book as well as your classes?
So the book is available on Amazon. If you just print Teach Yoga, Touch Hearts, or you type in my name, Ritu Kapur, it will show up. But for local people, it is available at the Tatnuk bookstore in Westboro. You can just go there and pick actually a signed copy. On Amazon, of course, the copy gets printed to you. But at Tatnuk, you can get a signed copy.
What does your family think? Now, they must be really happy for you, huh?
They are, yes.
Yeah.
They were all at the book signing at Tatnuk.
They were all there?
Yeah.
How many?
A lot of people, well, the close family.
Yeah.
I have family in India, of course. But many students and friends came in to show their support, which was phenomenal.
Well, that's good because you had the big room. Had you been up front, I don't think everybody would have fit. It's a pretty amazing store.
I love Tatnuk. We've been going there for years since my kids were little, and we would spend hours there. Everybody would find a book and find a corner to sit in.
Yeah, we're giving them a good plug. In the back, they've got the nice, the little chairs that you can sit in. What is it with Barnes & Noble? They took away all those easy chairs in both places I've been. Is it that they think people are just going to read the book there and not buy it? The people would leave piles on the floor. I don't know. Rita, when people begin yoga, how do they, what is it from the beginning? How do you take them through the beginning part?
In terms of teaching a class?
Right, yeah.
So it depends where they're starting. I often ask my students if they have any experience, if there's any history of injuries. And I teach classes. Some are very gentle, some are a little bit more advanced. So based on their experience, if they ask for suggestions, I'll say, start on this class.
Yeah.
Like you came to a Thursday night class. That's very gentle. That is a good place for anyone to start because we move gently. And then once they get comfortable with following directions and moving their bodies and feel confident, then they can start some other classes where we do more asana practice.
Now, you're doing it totally on Zoom now.
I know, yes.
So the only way they can find your class is to go to your website?
Yeah, so information is on my website. Because I had the studio, I do have a huge list of people that my newsletter goes out to.
Yeah.
And, they are looking at it, even though they're not always able to attend the class. They come and attend my retreats that I offer. I still offer in-person day retreat.
You do?
I do.
Where are those?
It's at the Unity Farm in Sherburne.
Unity Farm.
Yeah, it's a great animal sanctuary. They have a beautiful room where we practice. Actually, this year we did a summer retreat where we practiced under the tree, so we were outdoors. That was safer and that was more beautiful. We could hear the animals outside.
Have you heard of tree bathing? Tree therapy?
I've heard of it, yes.
We had a tree therapist on the show. She'd written a book, beautiful book, Forest Bathing with Your Dog. Do you want to go for a walk and all this? People are starting, I think maybe due to COVID, who knows, people are beginning to realize that there's, it could be very healing.
Exactly. Being in nature is obviously healing and inspiring. We can learn a lot from nature.
Do you think you'll ever go back to not doing them on Zoom, or both, Zoom and in person?
I think so, as, opportunities come. I may not have my own studio anymore because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I'm already talking to a couple other yoga studio owners where I can offer maybe one class a week in person.
Yeah. Have you ever met I think I mentioned her to you, Nita Shah? Did you ever meet her?
Nita Shah, no, I haven't met her.
She was my first instructor at the India Center.
Uh-huh.
And for years, we'd go there on a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Then she started doing it in her home in Westboro.
Uh-huh.
And I think she tried it. She began charging people, and maybe, I don't know if it was a success or not.
Okay.
But she was very, very good. She did start with the top of your head, and she'd move you down through it. By the time I think she got to my chin or my neck, I was out. I know, and when I know that all I could hear her saying was, Jan. I said, oh my God, they're all looking at me like, and I said, oh, I'm sorry, I must have fallen asleep. She says, oh, you were in deep meditation. I don't know which is different, because it was great. I don't think I've ever, that's what I love about the yoga meditation, is because I had never been that relaxed, ever. When did you start doing yoga?
I started practicing quite a few years ago, and then about 12 years ago, I decided I wanted to learn more, so I went for my first yoga teacher training and then another one.
Okay.
And it was a phenomenal experience.
Wow. Did you start in India or come here?
No, I learned here. When I grew up in India. I'm from New Delhi.
Yeah.
And I remember practicing yoga when I was young in school. It was offered to us.
For free in school?
Yeah. But it was just a little bit at the time. And then for many years I lost touch, in the busyness of life.
Yeah.
And when I came back to it many years later, it just felt amazing.
And that, we should offer that in our schools to help the children relax.
Right, yes.
Did you see it as being very helpful when you were a kid?
I don't have too many memories of it being helpful, It was just something you didn't think about. You did a PT class or music class in school, there was a yoga class.
Right.
I found it immensely helpful later in life because, we kind of lead very stressful lives, right?
Right.
So when you're young, you don't think of it as helpful, but I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I have taught yoga in local schools around here, Hopkinton and Natick.
You should contact Upton. Oh, I think what a great asset that would be. We're talking with Ritu Kapur, and she has, besides being a yoga instructor, she has written a wonderful book called Teach Yoga, Touch Hearts, a guide to creating inspirational yoga practice. Again, how can they get your book?
On Amazon and locally at Tatnock Bookstore in Westboro.
Now, going through her chapters, it says teachings based on Yoga Sutra. First, what's that?
So Yoga Sutra is the scriptures, ancient scriptures. It's part of Indian philosophy that constitutes of about 196 verses which talk about what yoga is and how it helps the body, the mind. Mostly it talks about how it helps the mind and the whole human experience.
I love this. You have all the different sections of this particular chapter. It's in Hindu up top, right? Is that Hindu?
It's Sanskrit.
Sanskrit.
So that's the ancient Indian language.
And then it has the English for Hatha Yoga Anushanam.
Anushasanam.
Right?
Sanskrit is a tongue twister. It's a difficult language.
It is, but she explains it beautifully so you can understand. Yamas and niyamas, what are those?
So yamas and niyamas can be called as the moral and the ethical guidelines, which are again talked about in the Yoga Sutras. So Yoga Sutras was written by a sage called Patanjali, and there's 196 verses. I took very few of those, which I thought really spoke to me and talked about their meaning. And from those sutras comes these ethical and moral guidelines. As a yoga practitioner, we should follow these guidelines as much as possible. You can actually call them as 10 commandments of yoga. There's 5 yamas, 5 niyamas, and they'll come as no surprise to anybody who has followed either a religion or spiritual path.
Yeah.
They are like truth and nonviolence, and then going to self-study, things like that.
You're like a coach, right? In a
Yeah.
way, you're coaching people into this type of thing, and it's very relaxing. Very chapter 4, asana. What's that?
So asana is the physical poses, which is what most people think yoga is, just moving the body physically. And that physical part of whole yoga is 1/8 of yoga. So there are 8 limbs, you can call them, of yoga.
Mhm.
Yamas and niyamas are that first and second limb. And then comes the asana. That is one part of the whole practice of yoga. So yoga is a very holistic practice that
Mhm.
involves the breath, the mind, and your spirit, of course.
I like that part, the breath and the mind.
Mm-hmm.
That works with me. I went somewhere for a class, and it was too much. It was on the floor, which it was so, not yours. Yours was comfortable. I also had a wall at my back, which was good. This particular class we basically had to get down on the mat. And a lot of people won't do it because they think, well, if they can't get down, some people have vertigo, one of them on one side. I can't get down and lay flat. What do you do for people like that?
So at the studio, I used to keep props. I had blankets and cushions that they could use. So I often tell people to put a blanket under their head.
Yeah.
And if there's any low back issues, put a folded blanket under your knees. If they're doing yoga at home, use a carpeted space. Otherwise, use 2 mats so you have little padding. So, I'm also an occupational therapist. That's my background.
Oh.
And that helps me talk about the body in that sense, how to protect your body, especially if you're new to yoga. Like you said, people
Yeah.
have never been on the floor. It's
Yeah.
challenging.
Is occupational therapy very similar to physical therapy?
It is.
I like
yeah.
physical therapy. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I do. I've had
It is
many
part of the
times.
rehabilitation.
So that's good. Physical therapy, occupational therapy.
Yeah.
Besides teaching yoga,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Now, okay, here we go. Guided awareness in child's pose, pratyahara.
Yes.
Did I say it right?
You did. So pratyahara is then another limb of yoga. Like I was talking about 8 limbs. Pratyahara means bringing your awareness inside. As you know, our 5 senses are so strong. We are constantly engaged, involved, and amused by what our senses, bring to us from outside. But it's not very often that we bring our attention inward. That's what yoga talks about. Once you've done the physical movements, once you've followed your moral, ethical guidelines, you have somewhat control on your breath, then you focus on bringing your attention inwards. that's where you start moving toward the next few limbs of yoga, which is all about meditation and bringing focus and concentration.
Solitude is luminous. That sounds really good.
So, not my words. That is a little passage from John O'Donohue's book called Anamkara.
John O'Donohue?
John O'Donohue. He passed away a few years ago, an Irish priest. He has written some beautiful, beautiful work. I've been reading his book Anamkara a lot.
Ankara, yeah.
That's on my bedside, so I pick it up, read a passage every night. But I have used his quotes a lot in this book.
Do we have Ankara? You've used that as a good reference, the Ankara.
It's a great book to read, yeah.
I think a lot of, I don't know, it took me a while when I began taking Anita's classes at the India Center. That's when it was in that like garage building. And then years ago somebody went into the garage and moved inside the building. But I remember at first, I don't know if you're self-conscious or you think everybody's going to look at you, that you're not doing it the right way. But eventually I saw that everybody in that room was just very centered on themselves.
Exactly.
And Rita she was watching me. Nita, she kept watching me. I caught her. She was trying, I think, to make sure that I understood what they were doing and to make me feel part of it.
Yes.
And at the end, she handed out, I think, almonds.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And then one lady brought Indian cookies, and I'm like, oh my God, they were fantastic. I said, you're going to bring those next time? Because I'm coming. They were really good. We're talking with Ritu Kapur, and she is a yoga instructor, and she also has written this book, Teach Yoga, Touch Hearts, a guide to creating inspirational yoga practice. Again, how can they reach you in your book?
So please visit my website. It's sohum, sohum.org. And you'll find information about my classes, my books, my book over there. And
So you're doing it on Zoom. You must be when I went there, did you tell me somebody was from out of this country that was on there?
yeah, so I have people visiting from different states. I have people visiting from Canada, India. So that's the benefit of being online. The world becomes a smaller place. People from all over can attend.
I like that.
Yeah.
Don't give that up. But also, I love the in-person part.
Exactly.
There's nothing like watching your teacher, how calm she or he is, and thinking, boy, I wish I could be like that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, we've all been under a lot of stress. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
We've never been, in our lifespan, never been through anything like this.
Right.
I think about my parents. They're gone now, but what would they have thought? I would have been down there and making sure they were fine and everything worried. Yes, definitely. Now, okay, Dharma, Dhyana, Samadhi. Is that it right?
Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. So those are the last 3 limbs out of those 8 limbs I was talking about from Yoga Sutra. And they're all related to focusing the mind. They all lead us toward that meditative path. In fact, Dhyana means meditation. And Samadhi, the last sort of part or limb of yoga, or you can call it maybe your goal in yoga, the ultimate goal is to be one with divine, however you define that divine, whether it's that higher power, one with nature, one with God.
Yeah. Koshas. What is koshas?
So koshas are the layers of our being, of our existence. Usually we think that our physical body is us, but there's more than our physical body. So our physical body is the first layer, but then there's more. There's energy body, there's emotional body, and then there's wisdom body, which is obviously our higher self.
Yeah.
And beyond that, the 5th innermost layer is the bliss body, the Anandamaya Kosha.
What beautiful chapters. She has done this amazingly. She has about the author. She has that too. Book recommendations. So you're going to be recommending other books as well, right?
I did. The books that inspired me, the books that I quoted from, yes, they're listed at the end.
The last chapter. Prayers from around the world. Did that take you a little while to get all of those?
Well, not really, because I actually included poems and prayers from around the world because I wanted this to be all-inclusive. You know, spirituality, it's not just Indian. It is a universal phenomenon. You know, we were talking about John O'Donohue, who has written beautifully about spirituality from his Irish point of view. And then there's many authors, you know, you can think of Henry David Thoreau, Mary Oliver, and the way they have talked about nature is spiritual. So I've included those. And the prayers, I started with prayers from India, then Christian prayers, Irish prayers, Buddhist prayers.
Celtic?
Yes.
Native American prayers?
Yeah.
And awakening to our own divinity. I had in college a roommate who was a Christian Scientist. I'd never heard of it, nothing. But I saw how confident and upbeat she was, and I thought, this is interesting. I was so homesick. Oh, physically sick too. So I went to a couple of her church services or whatever, and I loved it. And years later, I had another friend come into my life. And she was there at the right time when I was not doing, feeling well and all this and that. Do you have, before we close, Ritu, do you have many people who come who have gone through cancer treatment and other physical problems?
There are some, yes, and I think they have benefited from it. There are times when students, when I did classes in person, students, they cry on your shoulder, kind of.
Sure.
And something shifts within when you practice yoga, when you practice it at that deep emotional, mental, spiritual level. And you can call it healing, you can call it maybe enlightenment in a way. Whatever that shift is, it feels good.
Definitely. Oh, gosh. Ritu, this is great. If you want to join her on Zoom classes, give us your website again.
It's Sohum, SOHUM.org.
Now, if you want a copy of her book, she's told you how to do that. Amazon, Tatnuk Bookseller and all. If they want you to come and speak, is there another way they can reach you?
I think my website is the great way. It has my email. So.
Okay, there'll also be, when I'm done with it, there'll be a copy of her book, Teach Yoga, Touch Hearts. It'll be down in our dedicated local authors section here at the Upton Library. So if you're watching out there from another country, you might have to come to, no, you won't have to come to Upton. You can get it watch on her website and all. Thank you for being with us, Ritu.
Thank you, Jen, for having me here.
Are you going to have another book coming up?
I'm working on it.
All right, we'll see you next time. Be my guest.
All right. Thank you.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems.